Ja, hallo. Today I will introduce you to the holy grail of optimization, and that is by putting all your geometry on the very same atlas, and you're only using one material for everything you can see on the screen right now, and getting amazing results, super low drawcalls, and putting the visual fidelity the quest deserves into a smooth package, you could say. But before we get into that point, please be aware that you don't have to go through this extreme length to have an optimized vault. So here are the two things you can do to make sure your vault runs super smooth and it doesn't take you much time at all. So on your vault you probably have like a lot of static stuff, things that doesn't move, and only very few things that does move, like maybe you have a ball in your scene, that needs to move, or like this weird crystal, the secret crystal. But like everything else, like vaults, like these lampposts, I don't know, the car in this case, they're all just like static and don't move at all. And if you tell Unity that these things don't move, then Unity can make sure to combine these objects automatically for you. So it's not just this one lamppost and this one lamppost, but it just automatically sees, okay, there's several lampposts, I'm just gonna combine them on runtime. And to do that, all you need to do is, I would suggest everything that doesn't move, you put in its own game object or like a folder, you could say. I call it static. And what you do is, once you put everything non-moving in there, you just click on the group. As you see, like it literally like selects everything in the vault, colliders and all that stuff. And then you check this box. It says static, you just click it, and then it says, do you want to do this for all children? You just say yes, and you've just done your first step in optimizing your vault, and you also saved half the draw codes. How amazing is this? The second important part you should always do is baking lights. There's never really a reason to use real-time lights unless you have like something really interactive or like a super small vault. But even then, baking lights is always helpful. Conveniently, since you already marked everything as static, which does not move in the previous step, you can now calculate the shadows on all these objects and put them on a separate texture, and that is exactly what baking light maps does in comparison to real-time light, which would calculate the shadows every frame, which is of course quite resource intensive. So yeah, instead of doing that, you just have like a texture which is overlaid on top of this here. And we can see this if I turn off the bake light, you see, it's like the light is here. Everything is like the same brightness, but then we overlay this texture of calculated shadows, and we have the beauty of bake light maps. This also will halve the the amount of draw codes you get. And yeah, just these two methods, they take like 5 to 10 minutes, and for baking lights you probably have to wait a few minutes to kind of actually like process all the shadows and such. But if you do these two steps, you can save 90 to 75% of the draw codes you would if you were not to do this. But yeah, this is not the method I'm going to show you today. If you think, you know what, saving 90% of draw codes is good enough for me, and truly it almost always is, then you can just click off right now. But I'm gonna show you the secret art of optimizing. The autistic way, Do you have the power of autism to suffer through this process? Well, I mean, I guess you're gonna find out now. Maybe you're just like a sadist. You're like, or maybe it's gonna be like, yeah, I wanna see Maebbie suffer. That's always fun, right? But yeah, I guess to explain it to you, let me show you this demo scene I prepared. Oh wait, I haven't done any yet. 1 second, guys. 1 second, guys. So here we are at my newest, greatest map. It's called the like castle or something. Kind of looks like a castle, doesn't it? Well, it has like the grass down there, and it's like all the different kind of things you need for an awesome map. I forgot the mirror though. It's a bit unfortunate. Conventionally, if you were to texture this, you would of course, just select the faces you want to apply material to. and then you just put it on there, and then you have like the green, it's like grass, this is like a door frame. It's usually how I do it too. I don't even use textures, because textures are secondary. Well, not the plot of this video. I have like a pink carpet, it's pretty nice. And well, on this scene you have like 4 materials happening right now. And well, how this usually works is, if you render this like in computer graphics and etc., is for each material on this object, the CPU needs to give an instruction to the GPU to render this thing out. So it says on this face render this certain texture or material on this, and then the GPU does it. And this is exactly what the Drawcall is. So it's just the instruction from the CPU to the GPU. Well, the problem is, of course, if you have a CPU bound game, then these Drawcalls are much more important. So you should always strive to reduce these Drawcalls, so the CPU has to do less instructions to the GPU, and the GPU can actually like work more and actually be utilized to like its fullest extent. And this is why low Drawcall maps have like a very high FPS count. And we have here 4 materials now, so it means we have like 4 Drawcalls happening by default already. And then we have another 4 Drawcalls, like 1 for each material for the reflection probe on this on each of these materials on this specific object. And we would have another 4 Drawcalls with the baked light map overlaid on top of that. Unity can't statically batch things together, as I've explained in the beginning of the video. Then you have like less objects, and you have like less Drawcalls, because these calculations are done per object. And I'd also like to note that these Drawcalls happen per frame, of course, which is why this is so vital. Though the real goal here is, how do you reduce the material count? Because we already know, okay, this material thing is kind of compounding. What if we only had 1 material? Then we only have one, the one call for the material, 1 call for the reflection probe on that material, and 1 call for the light map on top of that. Is quite multiplicative. Is that a word? Yeah. And to demonstrate what I'm doing here is, I made this very simple plane scene right here. And instead of like taking a material and like using that to tile something on a plane, what if we just manual tile this? Here we just UV map this whole thing on this on like an actual plane. This is like my UV edit mode from the Pro Builder in Blender config. You can download that too somewhere. And like we're like on the whole, I just UV map the whole square of like the texture I like to use on this like big ass plane. Of course, if you get closer to it, you'll see it's kind of like washed out, so it's not ideal. Usually you want to tile textures, of course, you get more detail out of it. It's just a normal thing. So instead of having like this big plane and putting a material on it, I'm now gonna to subdivide it, and then I UV map these squares again. I like to use the thing cube projection, and with cube projection you always make sure the things are like properly like orientated. And like if you use the normal unwrap on Blender, you sometimes rotate the texture, and it's kind of like weird, so I don't like to use it too much. So here we are now, it's like a bit more detailed, but you're probably like, come on, it's still a bit too washed out. So what we're gonna do here, we just put in another subdivide, and yeah, we do this and this guy here. Okay, now we got like all these squares, and maybe isn't there like an automated way of doing it? I'm afraid to tell you. Sometimes you just gotta go do things manually with this method. So what we do is we just do cube projection on all these nice little squares down here. And we just go wild and kind of messed up. Yeah, you need to click bounding box. I always forget that. Yeah, click the bounding box. So when you do it, it's like in the center, and then we do all of this. And now this looks much more like a proper like tiling texture setup right here. And this is really what you want, right? So if we compare this to the more conventional method where we just have like a plane and then just like tiled it, like actually like going out of bounds on the UV space. I'm just gonna demonstrate this here. So we have like the 1 square, and then we just like scale this out like this, and then it tiles too, but like we can't really atlas this, which is the ultimate goal at the end. And yeah, but yeah, it would look the same, so you just like kind of trade a bit more polygons to save Drawcalls. And as said, CPU bound game, GPU doesn't do much anyway, so it can like handle a few more polygons. It's like the whole calculation happening here. So if we were to recreate the scene from over there, and like kind of, we have like this one material on here right now. So what if we have, we'll do like a few different materials, and you can just like tile it like this. Got like put in the grass, I suppose, and then it's like the carpet area up there. It is quite important that you put these UVs all on the same like picture square you see in Blender, like as in the 0 to 0 to 1 to 1 UV space, in order to put them on an atlas. And we're creating like a very simple atlas here right now. We have like this one texture, and we just bunch a few of like our texture squares next to each other on the atlas. And yeah, we have like 4 materials happening right now, so I'm like, let's do like a 4x4 atlas square here, and we have like this one default material on the top left, and I just take this bad boy, copy it over like over here. You have like different material textures, of course. Usually I'm like a bit lazy. I just like, let's put like some green on here and some purple, and we go back into into our Blender config, and I just overwrote like default like textures file. It was like a bit lazy, you could say. And what we're gonna do now is we take like our green texture, this is like the grass texture, and our grass texture on the atlas is like on the top right. So what we need to do now is we have everything on the same like picture square down there, and we do like a little calculation, and yeah, we go into UV space, we scale this down, and you can do the calculation, of course. We know this is a 512 by 512 atlas, and our square on that atlas, the grass square, which is like 1/4 of that texture, is like a 256 by 256 texture. So if we do simple math here, you can type in 256 divided by 512, and then we drag the square onto our grass thingy. And yeah, if you keep your atlas on a power of 2 and like perfectly tiled like this, you can literally just move it along the grid, and it will always fit perfectly. So this is our carpet area. So we do the same thing again. I forgot like a square down there. So still we scale this down. For convenience, I just scale it down to a 0.5 this time, just to keep it. Yeah, I'm just too lazy. You understand the calculation, I'm sure. And then we have like that's the carpet area. Yeah. And I forgot this one square you see on the top left, bottom left. Always make sure to do an Alt A before you select stuff, just to make sure you're not selecting something you don't want to. You have to be very careful when you like do the final atlasing step, and always do like double or triple checks for each material you convert into something you put on this specific atlas. Yeah, if you use my config, you of course go into the material hacker thingy and just change the projection from box to flat, and then it will always look proper. So we still have the 3 materials there. So what we're gonna do now is we can just literally remove the materials and then remove it again. And now we have everything on the same atlas and only using 1 material, and it's still tiling like this. So usually you wouldn't build it out like this. It was a very convenient example. It's just the same sized faces all over the place. What if we want to like take our like castle build, our demo scene we started out with, and wanted to put on evenly sized squares on that bad boy? One of the methods and sometimes it really like the only way of doing it properly is to manually insert some edge loops, and then just like making sure you have like evenly sized squares along the ground or along the wall or anything really. And as you see, these squares are not always perfectly like 8 by 8 or uniform. Sometimes you have like some elevation happening or some other stuff which is like on the mesh itself, and then you end up with like perhaps a square which has like another edge bit like going through it. Sometimes there's like a diagonal square, like lots of different like things can like be like it. You just need to be conscious about where's my 8 by 8 grid, and then you just select like multiple faces to perhaps UV map these into like one single square to tile it on. And yeah, you can make this a bit easier for yourself as well. So instead of manually cutting in the edge loops, we're gonna use the tool a knife project and a subdivided mesh. What we can do with this is we subdivide it, then we remove only the faces. So you press X and then go remove only the faces. And what that means is the edges are still intact, and you can use these edges to like cut into the mesh you have below you. This is quite a beautiful tool for this very method. I like to line it up a bit, you know, so like it's like on the edge of like this corner thing, so like the cuts are a bit more clean. But like you can just position it however you like. This is a 4x4 grid right here. First you select like all the edges of this grid you have just created. Then you go into object mode and select the other, like the thing you want to cut through. Then just make sure there's like nothing selected down below there. And what you do now is you first select the thing you want to cut through, then you select the knife project thing. The cut thing, you know, the grid you're gonna use to cut with. You go into the orthographic view, then press 1 on the numpad to kind of align it properly, or you click like the buttons on the top right, of course. So we go into top down view, then we click on the orthographic view button thingy, or we press numpad 5 on the numpad. Yeah, as you see, it changes the perspective. And all we need to do now is search up knife project. So you can search up all functions in Blender, as you may know, just with F3. And we type in knife project. Ah, there you go. It's the thing. And when you do this, make sure on the bottom left you click on cut through. That means it's gonna cut through everything of the specific mesh. And then we get like more cuts in this, as you see. A bit more happening. And you can see like they even like kind of checker shows you all the squares that are now in this mesh. And by this you're gonna like have a few more polygons, but it's like it's really not that much. And as said, you know, like the GPU is like sleeping on the job anyway, so it can handle these few more polygons in return of reducing draw calls. So you got like the typical square setup here. If you're using my config, and you're using like a tiling node or whatever on the texture you're on right now, because currently Blender is still tiling this for me, but we want to UV map it, so we kind of need to remove the nodes here. What you do is you have like this mapping node here, and you just like remove it from the actual texture thing, and then you click on like this, what was this called, box projection thing, and you like put it on flat, and that will make sure you get like the proper UV thingy, exactly how it would look in Unity. And then you do this with like all the materials. Yeah, if you have like many materials, I mean, sure, it's gonna take a while, but like it's pretty much, this is like the final step of like any modeling in this kind of way thing. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm sure. Let me do this one here. What's this, like the pink carpet thing? Do you gotta love the carpet? So yeah, and now you see you even like the walls are, they're like everything is like going you know, looking a bit weird because, you know, we just have like this one texture in it, which is the atlas, of course, and we just like, you know, just model it without any regard to the UV mapping. And yeah, we don't really need the grid anymore. If you have like, you know, on a large project, you would probably have like a super large grid, you know, just for convenience, which you would use on many different objects to make sure you get like the tiling the grid done. Sometimes the cut doesn't really go in properly. There's like one missing here, so you can just select the two vertices and press J to insert like your own edges, and then you'll see you have like the squares happening here. Yeah, just like we did in our little example. I have this like on my short hotkeys. On when you press Q on Blender, it's like Q projection. So if you have like a perfect square like this, you can like use this as your reference square, and then you know, okay, this is like the perfect 4x4 square. I can just like go with this one and do the Q projection on this. Yeah, you know, like go to the next one. This is a bit more of a difficult square, because like this is like a 3x4 square, and there's like another edge running along through it. So if we were to UV map this, you see it's kind of looks kind of weird. It doesn't use the full UV tiling space as we like to. So to solve this, as said, you need to be a bit conscious of where your squares are. You're gonna select this like the 4x3 square, and then below you see like the 4x1 square. And when you do like a UV projection on these two squares with the Q project, you'll see it fits perfectly. You just keep going like this, and we have like some very simple squares here, just like you see like 3 of them this time, and this can get quite extensive, as you may imagine. But yeah, we know already, you know, we have made like the left hand side, we kind of already like mapped this out, and then we have one at the bottom, so it was kind of easy to see where these things are exactly. There's another great thing which you should utilize. There's a tool called Magic UV and text tools as well. So get these two if you can. But Magic UV in particular has a great function which lets you refer to a UV space and then extend it to an adjacent face. And to do that, all you need to do is click the face which you would like to refer to as, press on U. When we have like something more complex like this, I think that makes more sense to show it to you like this. But yeah, we have like a hole in there now apparently, and like we wouldn't be able to UV map this hole, cause like, you know, if we were to do a cube projection on this, we would just get something messy, or we would need to manually UV map it, which is kind of a pain, of course. So instead what we do is we go to like the UV unwrap menu, press U, then texture unwrap, refer to the face you want to refer as, and then go to an adjacent face to expand like the selection, also texture unwrap and then set. And as you see, it goes from there to there. And then if you look at the left hand side, I think it makes the most sense. You see like the UV map just extending. Since we want to have everything of the UV map on the same UV square, we need to of course move this thing to the left hand side of the square. So this one, you know, as we see, it just, the face began as the picture ended. So we just move it to the left, and then we have our tiling perfectly, and it looks the same as it did before with it being out of bounds. I think that makes sense. So we can continue doing this with the one next to it. We like click on refer again, and then we set it on to this square. And as you see, it's like the perfect square, since we have like a very nice reference square. And yeah, that's how this tiling works out. So yeah, I'm gonna like tile this out a little bit. You can just watch me suffer. I mean, this is what you're here for anyway, so let's go. Yeah, and I'm a bit lazy, I just remove this stuff. Yeah, so this was the ground, pretty easy to do, but inside we have like this carpet going on as well. So we have like our reference square again. We do like a cube projection on this. And this is like the perfect 4x4 square, you know, as per usual. So yeah, cube projection, then we do refer and set to the thing, to the squares next to it. And yeah, maybe we should like, I should probably remove the sun here so you can see it better. But yeah, this is the cube projection one anyway. And then we like, yeah, have these two perfect ones, and then and now that the ground is done, which is usually the easiest part, let's just do the walls, because the walls are like, well, they're posing a bit of a problem, you know. We only like cut it down from the top down view, so it only tiles in like the horizontal like way. Does that make sense? Yeah, horizontal way tiling, yeah. So we have like this 4 square wide, but it's like 5 meters high, and we want like a perfect 4x4 square, because that's how like you tile the best. And we need to kind of like do a bit of manually like editing here. As you see, we put in like the edge, no, the edge loop. I literally forgot the name. The edge loop here, and you see there's like a diagonal line happening here, and we can like utilize this vertex, push this down a bit. We got like the 4 meter edge. Now we do our trick with J again, selecting these two vertices right there. I'm going into like the autism mode, I like to call it. It's like, you know, there are no textures in there, you know, you just go crazy if you stay in this mode for too long. And yeah, as you see, we have like this nice horizontal line here. And we move this up a bit, or move this up a bit, and we go here. We have like a nice door frame added here. And then we do the same over here, and yeah, we probably need an edge loop here, so we go wild like this. Connect this again, then I click like this vertex, make sure it snaps perfectly on the grid. And yeah, I like to work on a power of 2 grid, by the way, I highly recommend. And yeah, then we have like these perfect squares. We clean up a little bit, you know, we just like push this vertex up by pressing GG. and then we can like move it along the like actual edge. And now we have our perfect square here. We can do our meme again, you know, press the cube projection. Let's go. Pretty easy. And then we do this here too. This one, you know, we like set and refer. As you may imagine, I have refer and set as like my hotkeys. So refer is C and set is D for me. You can set this to yourself, of course, if you do a right click on the command, as I shown you before. That of course makes it super easy. Usually, yeah, on the walls, you won't get perfect tiling, but you can add like a seam on, you know, on the edge itself. Well, I didn't add a seam, but like, you know, just imagine it as a seam where the thing just doesn't tile along the corner. And then you just make sure that each of the 4 walls or how many other walls you have are like perfectly tiling, and as soon as you hit an edge, you can just like, you know, it doesn't matter too much. So here's a bit more of a complex one with this like the door frame, but we already see we have like a perfect 4x4 scenario happening here. So we can easily just like cube project all of this and it will look proper. If you run into the issue, you know, your door frame or something is not really like perfect 4x4 square, you can still unwrap it and then you kind of like just scale it in or out a bit. So you press like S on the UV map, and you can press X or Y to like only scale it along X or Y, and then you just make sure it fits the whole square, and then it will tile uniform. And now that we've done that part, we still have like some wall above us we need to take care of. We just do the refer and set, and as you see me do on the left hand side, the thing is actually extending upwards. So for every phase you do, the set and this refer and set thing too, you need to make sure the left hand side you like you take the face and actually like move it downwards, so it's like in the actual texture space, so we can like later on, you know, scale it on the proper thing. So I'm doing this like all over here now. You know, this is like the fourth principle. You just do one task, and then you do the task for like a long period of time, and then once you've done that task, you go to the next task. So it's not beneficial to like, you know, do a lot of complex tasks next to each other for each thing you do. No, instead you do like you break it down very hard, and then you do every broken down step in like a successive manner, and that helps you to like keep sane and like to be much quicker. Who'd have thought, you know, we are here in a Blender tutorial or whatever, and you're learning about the fourth principle. It's very helpful in many life scenarios, as you may imagine. But yeah, that's why I did it like this, you know, just refer and set, and then push the whole thing, and then push it down instead of doing it one by one. Okay, anyway, we have like the outside walls here as well. Yeah, we just have this diagonal line going through. Yeah, that's always fun. So how we gonna deal with this? Let's see. Yeah, we gotta like take all these bad boys, and sometimes it's just like too like complex to put like a edge loops with something, because you don't always have like perfect topology, and like you don't have to like model in squares or whatever. They always tell you, oh, you have to like everything in rectangles, guys. It's like the way to model. Look, what you can do is you just go to the knife tool, then long press it, then you get to a tool called bisect, and on bisect you do a plane like this, then zero out the x and y axes and z on like 1, and what that does is, no, the y is on 1, right? But yeah, you kind of may have like a very perfectly flat plane, and then you can adjust it so you have like a thing, you just cut through the whole wall, and as you see, it results in this perfect 4x4 square here with this like weird diagonal line happening along it. And yeah, we can do our fun thing again, cube projection. Let's go. Let's go. We do like refer set, and then we push it to the right again. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn on constraint to image bounce. When you press on constraint to image bounce on the UV menu, you can actually like make sure that like your faces always stay within this one simple image spot. So here we have like a new square. That's like good. And this is why I cut it like along this, like the literal edge of the building. So you have like a perfect 4x4 square on these corners, which is kind of nice. We have our like meme door frame again. Let's go. Ooh, that's a good move right here. And then we have these interesting squares. And sometimes you have these, you know, sometimes the face just looks kind of weird and it's kind of like distorted and such. So here you have to actually do like some manual editing. So we have like the top part of this like half or quarter square, and then we have the bottom part, which is like this triangle thing, and like it kind of makes sense how you have to place the vertice on the UV space to make it fit proper with the one below, and then you just move it down like this and it kind of looks proper. And yeah, you have to go into get in manually sometimes. Yeah, I got a bit lazy on this one. I'm like, well, nah, I don't want to. Nah, it's not gonna be visible. I'm just gonna remove it. See, I'm very, I'm like a good-hearted person. I always want to save the polygons for my Quest users here. And yeah, here we go. Got the next one. It looks a bit off, but like doesn't matter too much. Kind of looks fine. Oh wait, never mind. I'm gonna put this and yeah, just move this to the right a bit, and it kind of worked out. See, it's pretty nice. Who's suffering now, and it's not too bad. Yeah, I'm certain. So yeah, we got this thing again. Oh yeah, and you have to, since we are on constraint to image bounds, every time you do an edit, it always wants to snap to the image space. So you first move it down and then do the correction on your UV map. And this thing is like the whole workflow of what awaits you if you're into this way of optimizing. Well, no one is really into that way of optimizing. It just if you want to like it's like a magic trick, you want to show people, how did the guy do it? Well, it's lots of suffering, but never make it look like you did suffer. That's like big life lessons here. We have a lot of time. It's a very extensive tutorial. We got like the reverse set again, it's just if you want to hotkey this. And yeah, this is a bit complex, so sometimes you have to try around. It's like, how do I, which face do I refer and then set to kind of make it work? And this kind of worked out here. So it's just like, take this, I think, and then, yeah. Okay, how do I do this? Let's see, you gotta take this down and then, no, wait. Yeah, we have to like manually do it now. It's a very advanced thread. Yeah, that worked out. Okay, good. Now here like some more complex things. You got like this like overhang thing. Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called. I just do like a reverse set on it. And since this like square is not really completely used yet, we don't even have to move this face we are like UV mapping here right now. As you see on the left hand side, it like perfectly stays within the square. So that's a very simple operation, as you see. And yeah, again, that's the fourth principle right here, where have you seen this before? And yeah, always try to like think, how can I make this the most efficient way? Because this is like a lot of monotone task, and here, I don't want to UV map this, I just put the roof up here. It's like pretty nice. And we retrofit it to like perhaps add like some edges in here, like go to the opposite ends and then press J. And we like build our little grid like this. Look, I mean, it looked so bad, guy. Look, we have a building, we need a ceiling, have you ever seen a castle without a ceiling? Exactly, that's why we need one. It's very, very important stuff here. Okay, here we go, and yeah, it's just a bit of squares up here. We can just like quickly UV map this. So we have something like the door frame here. You could just like more conventionally UV map this. What I like to do is only select like 3 faces, then do like a proper unwrap of like pressing U and then unwrap, or pressing U twice, U. And then you see like this line down here, and then I do like refer on one of these faces and then set it, and then you have like, it like kind of stretches out. I like detach it with Y, then move it on the x-axis to the right, and then you have like this perfectly, well, somewhat tiling door frame texture thing happening here. So I always like to utilize some solid colors into my world. They're a bit underrated. Like, you don't always have to texture everything, like some stuff even in real life is just like, kind of looks like a solid color anyway, and the rest is being like sold with this lighting. So given how I'm such a very artistic person, of course I understand the value of this. It's very good hearted too, and what you can do is with these solid colors, you just do shift right click on like the general color on your texture atlas. I usually have like small color squares for that because, you know, I set them like in Blender before I set them on a color atlas. Then you do a right click, you know, with the faces selected, and then cursor to selected. Wait, no, selected to cursor. Here we go. And then you have like everything crunched together on this very like specific dot. And that means it's just like having one single color, and this is like one of the great ways of this method. So yeah, I like, as you may imagine, I really like UV mapping these simple colors. And if this method really puts you off, you know, where you're like, maybe are you fucking stupid? At least UV map all the solid colors you have in your world. Because even that is just gonna have such a huge impact, and it's just so simple to do, you know, just trust me. Even editing the stuff later on, you know, if you want to change a color or something, it's not too much work. So yeah, solid colors is just how you do that. You can like click on the object later on the top left, you have like something called UV sync. And as you see, we have still some faces which are not in a square because I kind of forgot to do it. You just like click on it, and then you can actually see, you know, the face, the representing face on the 3D viewport. And that's how you can find these faces. And then you just like move them, you know, onto the right, or in this case on the right, so it's like in the same texture space. So we go to like the next face here, and like click on this here. Oh, it's next to it. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that works out. As said, you know, the edge of the wall doesn't need to like tile with like, you know, it's like a 90-degree angle, so no one will notice it anyway. There's another face. Here we go. You can also press dot on your numpad in order to like jump to the corresponding face while your mouse is in the viewport. It's very convenient. So here we have like the whole square now. As you see, it's a bit of a mess. You can like go along all the edges, making sure it's like there's nothing small sticking out of it or something. So now we can do the very magical step. Everything we've done up to now is just like some prep work and such. But this is where the magic happens. We take like the whole square. We select the material, as in I click select, and it selects everything which has that material. And then we can like scale this down to, let's see, 256 divided by 512. Then we know, okay, that's like, cause, you know, as said, the square is 256 by 256. We like, you know, divided by the total size of the square. It's like big math, you know. And I love, you know, on Blender, you can literally type that thing in. You see me type it in the bottom left. I used to use a calculator for that stuff back in Pro Builder. Well, not anymore, you know, we just type this in. So yeah, we UV map this the grass texture here. Let's see what we got here. I got like the door frame, which, I mean, you know, you don't really need to do much with that. Got this one, and you see, you know, now you always need to make sure that, you know, you're not selecting like some rogue face, which doesn't belong to the thing. So every time you go into the viewport, like before you even click select on a material to, you know, select the thing, just press Alt A. So you like remove all selections. And yeah, you just see me like remap that door frame. And sometimes if you don't know which material you are at, you can just literally click on like one face and it jumps you to the material on, well, in this case on the right hand side. And we're doing the same thing as we did with our small example earlier. And now I take the carpet here, we just scale this down, in this case to 0.5. And yeah, just put this in here. So if you haven't seen it yet, I got like long versions of my time lapses, and there's like this, you know, the one part where I actually do this step is like such a short thing of the video, but it really looks nice, you know, when you see, you know, these weird disjointed UV maps and everything just turning into this like uniform, nice looking model right here. It's certainly undistinguishable from like using like a material for each thing. It's just a bit more time intensive. And yeah, you can actually see like, you know, we have this like the grid pattern texture, and you can see like the grid going along the actual edges of the model. It's quite a beautiful sight, wouldn't you say? You can of course do this with a very large project as well, like this 400k masterpiece called Eventide. And what I love about this the most is, you know, you use the material for everything. So what you can do is, you know, you can literally flex the atlas on like a sign you put on your map, and it has literally no performance impact. It's just so good. So that is exactly what I've done here. You see, it's like the whole square just put up on top right, for the ones who know what's up. Yeah, as you see, I structured it. You have like a lot of these texture squares down here. I usually add like a bit of margin to it, which is why I showed you how to calculate the way to scale it down, even if you have like, weird, like if you have like 480 by 480 squares or something. On the top left, you see me use like these colors. I have them like a bit organized, and they're a bit larger because I'm using a lot of different maps, specifically like the emission map and the metalness map are like very scaled, have a much lower resolution than the 4K texture atlas you see here, and that's why the colors are pretty large. And yeah, you see like you might be able to make out these squares if we go into this gray model thingy mode. I don't know what it's called. So you can actually make out the cut the the uniform squares I cut into this very specific mesh right here. And they don't always need to be like perfect squares. Sometimes, it looks fine if you have this like, it looks a bit, like a bit of a diagonal line. So yeah, just try to keep it, like perfectly squared for most stuff, but you don't need to do it for like everything. And yeah, this transpires through the whole object here. That was a bit of an easy one. This one was a bit harder to do because you had like this elevation chain that's happening. Later on, I cut in these gem thingies, which are like embedded in the ground. They're like part of the lore. It looked cool, it looked a bit bland before, so I just put this in here. And of course, as I explained before, the squares are not always super perfect. There's like a little edge on this one, for example. And yeah, you don't need to like conform with it too much. With like cutting into like the mesh, you can create some really awesome effects. Here's like a bit of flagstone happening. And what I've done with this here is, I just like cut into the flagstone itself to do like a very seamless transition between like the flagstone. Like it literally ends when like the stone thingy ends, and then it goes into the sand area, which is like adjacent to it. It's a really beautiful effect. Yeah, so maybe think a bit out of the box. It doesn't need to be all squares. And yeah, you can cut this in with knife project, of course. This is a bit of an easier one. It's just like the walkway here. Oh, it's 4 meters wide. That's awesome, right? Very convenient for me. I like to use 4 meters for like some walkways. You see it me using it in Atoll too. It's also 4 meters wide. And of course, you have the more, let's say, conventional UV mapping, like these wood planks over here. They're like individual wood planks, and they're just like cubes with like no face at the bottom. And you see me, I just UV mapped this on this one. And they're all at like slightly different places. And yeah, just be a bit creative. Like if you select all these wooden planks right there, you would see that the whole texture space is utilized here, which is of course ideal. And yeah, you can just use like random selection and then just like move it around to make it work. Just develop a strategy and you'll probably be fine. And yeah, we port this thing into Unity. And if you go down to below, you can see like all the materials used. You got like the atlas here, which is like everything in the whole scene, the whole geometry. Then you got like this glass texture, of course. It's like the transparent glass. You can't really, UV map this because it uses another shader variant of the standard shader. And then you got like the water, which is outside. Oh wait, it's the grass. Yeah, it's the grass. So the grass, for this one, I didn't use this technique where tile things manually. This is actually like an individual material. And the problem with this huge terrain is because it's like literally just like one grass texture with some other stuff sprinkled in. It would have been like almost as many polygons as the rest of the map if I had tiled it in a way. If I had like cut into the mesh in like evenly sized squares. So for this one, I couldn't justify the like immense increase in poly count. So this is why this is a little tileable grass material. And we can actually take a look at this if we go into edit mode. And then you'll see the thing. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Okay, here we go. No, here we go. See, then you see like the whole thing. And yeah, it's good. You can do some tricks still with your remapping, even with like a tileable material, which is where you see like the black obsidian kind of spots in it. So yeah, and then we have the water, of course. Select the water texture down there. Yeah, for materials, here you go. Oh, and the star part. Yeah, the star particles. And I love this water shader. It's called Quest Water Reflect from 1001. Great shader. I highly recommend. Just like scrolling water, but it's so performant on the Quest. It's truly the pinnacle of Quest water shaders. Either way, this has been the holy grail of hard optimizing your world. Give this a try, maybe a little test project or something, and see if you can get into this, or maybe retrofit your worlds with this. It would benefit anyone really. There are like too many bad Quest ports of worlds out there, and this is something that can really, help give Quest users a better experience as well. Well, even if you don't, I hope you enjoyed me suffer through this through this thing, and goodbye.